Hey, if you feel stuck, like your business just isn't going where you want it to go, trust me, you're not alone. And you're probably sick of gurus who are telling you, hey, if you just do this one thing, then everything will change. And it's probably because they want to sell you their thing. So today on the Exit, we want to talk about the growth mindset. And while a growth mindset may be the key to unlocking your full potential, it is not an overnight magic pill. But when you learn to embrace challenges, learn from your setbacks and failures, and practice the skill of seeing growth opportunities, I think you're going to be amazed at how quickly your business begins to skyrocket. Hey everybody, welcome back to Own the Exit.
Own the Exit.
Yeah, so Aaron, today we're jumping in, we're talking about the growth mindset. And I think really there's probably three big myths that I want us to bust today. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with believing these myths, thinking that these things are true, even if they wouldn't say it with their words. And so I want us just on this episode to systematically deconstruct the three myths that I think are holding a lot of entrepreneurs back.
Let's do it.
And so we're going to dive in. The first myth of entrepreneurship is that entrepreneurs are born, not made. I've heard so many different gurus say, if
just like
you know,
leaders
right, leaders are born, not made. And I will say this, I tell people, I feel like I was a born entrepreneur because I started my first business when I was 11 years old. I was always entrepreneurially wired. But the truth is that a year before I started and I realized this even in preparation for this episode, or I realized it again, is that a year before I started my first business at 11, my grandpa, who was a pipe welder, right? He had worked for an energy company. He contracted asbestosis in his lungs and ended up getting a settlement for about, I don't know, it wasn't a ton of money, but it was like over $100,000 in the settlement. And for a pipe welder, that was a lot of money. It was the first time he'd had that much money all at one time. And one of the things he wanted to do was take our whole family on a trip to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, which is from Western North Carolina. And so we all went, stayed in this big, nice house right on the beach, had a pool, had all this stuff. It was cool. And the first night we were there, my grandpa, my poppy, who's now passed away, but he walks in, he gives all of us grandkids a $100 bill. And he says, hey, I want y'all to all have a good time while you're here and stuff like that. And I'm like 10 years old. And I'm sitting here, oh, I'm rich, man. I've got this $100, right? I've told this story before. But the truth is, I took that $100 and realized as I started to compile all the different things that I wanted to do while we were on this vacation, this like once in a lifetime vacation at that point in my life, I realized quickly $100 is not going to pay for all the stuff I want to do. And so I'm like, we go to a flea market the first morning that we were there, and I decided to buy these seashell necklaces from this lady because I thought if I can buy these for less money and sell them for more, then I can take my $100 and make it more money. And so I bought the seashell necklaces, bought 10 of them for $10 that afternoon, walked up and down the beach and sold all 10 of those seashell necklaces for $10 each. So I bought them all 10 for $10 a dollar piece, and then sold them for $10 each, mostly to retired couples sitting on the beach who I knew they probably had grandkids back home that they wanted to buy souvenirs for, and I was probably their grandkids' age. And so I leaned into all of it, and I took my $100 and doubled it. And that really was when the entrepreneur in me was born. And so when I think about it, entrepreneurs aren't born. There's moments in life that make entrepreneurs, and you make a decision whether or not you lean in to those moments. But the truth is, those moments aren't just things that you can choose to. If you say, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, people are like, I hear people say, I'm not entrepreneurial. It's, what does that even mean? It's like when you're 4 years old saying, oh, I'm not a reader, and then just deciding to not read for the rest of your life. So entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial mindset and all that kind of stuff, it is 100% learned.
Learned and environment.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just trying to think of, I think there are people that have more of a aptitude for risk or some components of their personality that are more, oriented towards being an entrepreneur. But I think that it's certainly developed, like you're saying. I'm just thinking about myself growing up, it was not a stable environment. So we moved a lot of times. I think I went to 11 different schools, bouncing around, didn't have a lot of money, had old clothes. But like those things created almost like a survival or kind of And then I was like a juvenile delinquent as a teenager. So I was an idiot, my own choices. But then being put in bad circumstances, but were my own fault. But all of those things, I think, even shaped me as an entrepreneur, even weirdly, because it was like, it created a sense of an urgency or like a life or death sense inside of me that I could bring to business, where it's like, hey, I've got to get this deal closed. I've got to do that because we're just trying to put food on the table here. Yeah. And meanwhile, I have food, I have a roof over my head, but I think I'm good on the day-to-day living and providing for my family. But I still have that something inside of me that's like that crisis almost.
Right.
Where it's, I have to do this next thing or grow this. And I think it can be unhealthy, but I think it can be healthy too. And it's like that drive of, and so I think going along with your point, am I a born entrepreneur? I don't know.
Yeah.
But there were circumstances in my life that like caused me to just want to, that formed me, like my makeup.
Right.
To where now when I'm put in situations that are uncomfortable, it's just normal.
But I think about other people in your situation that made different choices to do different things about their situation, and they've not experienced the success in life change, and they could have, right? They could have made different decisions, because entrepreneurs, I don't think they are born. I think becoming a successful entrepreneur is a product of the decisions that you make. Yes, the environment kind of sets you up for that and can put you behind the starting line a little bit. And I'm not just completely ignoring that, but the truth is that you mentioned a lot about risk tolerance, and that entrepreneurs really do have to have a higher than normal risk tolerance. But I think that's really the mindset that can be broken when we bust the myth of entrepreneurs are born, not made, is that is this fear of loss, this anti kind of risk thing. And it's truly, this is like, you and I are similar, right? We didn't grow up with a whole lot. And because of that, we don't have a whole lot to lose. It's what happens if I go out and I risk it all and I lose it all,
You're
then
just
I'm just right back where I was anyway.
Yeah.
And if I choose to do nothing now, I'm probably just going to stay where
that's
where
a greater fear there's a greater fear that I have than the fear of failure, which is a fear of inaction and being 60, having not taken action, and certainly won't have anything then.
Yeah. One of our
Even if
guests,
I have a 50-50 shot of success, it's better than zero.
Yeah. One of our guests on our roundtable series that we did, Tony Akins, was a career firefighter, public servant, paramedic, and he made the statement, and it really stands out to me. He's like, as a paramedic, you go out and sometimes the situation ends up going the way that you don't want it to. The person dies in the car wreck or whatever it is, and it's really tragic and it's horrifying, and we wouldn't want that to happen to anyone. But he said, but an equally, and I don't remember exactly how he said it, but he said an equally tragic thing is watching a life erode on the couch from inaction for decades. And just let that settle in. It's, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, but you've been taught or told, or your environment has said it's not available to you because you're just not an entrepreneur, break that lie, get out, take action, take risk. Because if you don't, if you die, i.e. fail in entrepreneurship, then yeah, you could call that tragic. I think what's more tragic is that you sit there in inaction for decades and let your life erode away. And then when you're 60, you look back on your life and you're like, man, I wish I'd at least tried.
Yeah. I'm thinking of my kids and how I'm trying to create an environment for them to be entrepreneurial. And I don't know if they're born entrepreneurs or not.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 kids. I've told you the story before. We have our laundry business. So we have one location where we've got 8 washer and dryer coin operated machines. So I bought those machines and I said, hey guys, I'm going to buy the machines, but you guys are going to do all the work. Yeah. It's a joint venture. Yeah. You guys have to go down there. And of course I have to do the work too, because I have to drive them. Yeah. But you guys have to go down there. We're going to go together. We're going to, at first we were getting our coins in these plastic bags. And then I realized, I was like, guys, it's not safe. Like we could get stabbed or accosted, or we're carrying like bags of coins. So we got to be smarter. So then we went and got like the cloth sacks. And then just life things, like they're not thinking about when they're kids. So then we're counting the machines, and then we got to work with the manager who fixes them, who's not that good and doesn't fix the machines right away. So the kids are frustrated, and I make them go to the bank. So they're like standing there, like interacting with the teller, and they're dividing up their portion. And so it's like, and then we got another location now. So like their business doubled.
Wow.
So I got my 3 kids that are doing this. They're ages 10, 8, and 7. One of them is way more excited.
Yeah.
he just can't wait. He wants to. He's actually like the saver. So he's got like $900 now, and he's 7.
Wow.
And so now he wants to
awesome.
take that and go buy 2 vending machines.
Wow.
So in my mind, I'm like, okay, great. Now I got to go to Costco with him. But I'm like, I'm trying to like, you know what? I want to I want to do that because I want to
partner with his entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. And the other ones, like how I've done it too is I'm like, I get 50% of the money. You guys get 50% and you split it in thirds. But if one of you doesn't go, then you don't get your split.
Right.
Now, I know it doesn't work that way in part. You want the 3 partners because one guy could go and the other guy could come the next time because he kind of died. But I don't want them to do it. This time you just have to work.
Yeah,
so that they have the exposure of doing it. And so those are I'm just sharing that as like an idea of I'm thinking about.
You are training your sons in entrepreneurship because you understand that whether they were born, like you've got a 7-year-old who seems to have more of a natural propensity towards it, but that doesn't mean that the other 2 can't be completely, totally successful business people later on in life.
Yeah.
It just sometimes takes the right investment and the right willingness to push through challenges. And I think that's the big thing is like people have, whether you call it nature or nurture, different people have different levels of resilience, grit, and determination. But the truth is that you can cultivate more of that. It's not like the amount of grit, determination, and discipline that you're born with is all you're ever going to have. You can cultivate more of that. You can get better at that. And the main way you do that is put yourself in situations where you have to overcome a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think overcoming a challenge, like it exposes you. You and I were talking about, we've both done 75 hard. You're in the middle of it right now. I've done it a couple of times. I love it. If you've never heard of it, look up Andy Frisella. But
it's harder than you think.
It's harder than you'd think, really.
Doing the challenge.
But when you come out of the other side of the 75 days, you realize, holy crap, like I'm capable of a lot more than I thought I was. And I've always felt like I was capable of a lot, but you go through it and you do it twice. It's, man, I'm capable of even more than I thought I was. And you realize that when you intentionally put challenges in front of you and then push through them, then you're able to cultivate what it takes to be successful as an entrepreneur.
And I'm thinking about having that entrepreneurial mindset, whether you're going to work for somebody or not. Like even I don't care. I literally do not give a rip if my kids start a business later in life or not.
Yeah.
But I just want them to have that mindset of that ownership mindset and like getting them thinking, because I'm like, guys, you guys are going to go to school today and someone's going to be washing you guys are making money.
Yeah.
Like passively.
Yeah.
And
they're
like,
see the value of that.
So right away, they're like, shoot, how do we get more machines?
Yeah.
Like right away, they start thinking. And that's not something, those weren't thoughts that I had when I was 7.
Yeah.
Me. Like but I didn't have anybody cultivating that. So I think that's just for when you're setting that up for your kids, but and making them go for 2-mile runs. We went for a 2-mile run a couple days ago and they just ran the entire way.
Yeah.
And they're like, wow, that was so awesome. I can't believe we did that.
Yeah.
But I think it's the same thing as you get older. Is surrounding yourself with those types of people. Is huge.
Totally.
If you're a part of a group, like even a catalyst for me starting the business that I have now was working a W-2 job for someone who was very entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And like my dormant entrepreneurship, because I was rubbing shoulders with him and the ideas, and I was like, yeah, you're right. Because I would say something that was like a limiting belief. Hey, I want to make X amount. And he's like, that's why, like when you can make $1 million.
Yeah.
And he would just keep challenging my kind of belief system that was limiting. So I think if you haven't had those experiences growing up where you had an opportunity to grow as an entrepreneur or be awakened to that, you can still do it. And you can still form that and as you're older and develop that. Like you said, you can grow, you can face challenges. I just don't think that you'll regret it.
Yeah.
By trying and pushing through those walls and maybe failing, but then getting back up and succeeding next time.
For sure. Entrepreneurs are made, not born. The myth is entrepreneurs are born, not made. But the truth is entrepreneurs are made. And the way that you cultivate more of that growth mindset and that determination is by intentionally putting yourselves in situations that are difficult, where you can experience disappointment, but you can also experience success. You can learn from the failure and you can experience the joy of the success. And you keep putting yourself in situations like that. And that leads to the next myth that we want to bust wide open. And that's this idea that, well, failure means the game is over. Failure, and we hear this a lot, but I think there's a difference in hearing something and people actually believing it. And internally, I feel like if this doesn't work, then it's all for naught, right? It was all a waste. If this venture is not successful. And I think then what ends up happening is you end up in this cycle of Alex Hormozy calls it, I'm trying to remember what it's called. Alex Hormozy calls it uninformed optimism, right? You start out on a new journey. You have no idea how hard it's going to be. You have no idea how difficult it's going to be. You have none of that. And you're just optimistic because you're uninformed, right? And then you become informed. Like, oh, it's really hard. Now it becomes informed pessimism, right? Oh, now you're looking at all the things that aren't going to work.
Right.
And then at some point it comes to a crisis of meaning where it's like, why am I doing this? I shouldn't. And that's the point. Most people call that moment, that crisis of meaning, failure. And the truth is, it's not failure. It's actually
normal emotional response.
It's a normal emotional response, but it's also the only thing that determines whether or not it's failure is whether you allow that moment of why in the world am I doing this? This is not worth it. Nothing's working. I'm not making money yet. I'm barely doing all this kind of stuff. What ends up happening is you come back around and you see another opportunity and another venture and another idea over here. And you suddenly think, oh, that's what's wrong is it's the thing that I'm doing. So then you come back over here to this thing and you start the trajectory again of uninformed optimism. You're like, now you're hopeful because this new venture, this new journey, this product, this new industry, whatever it is, will be the breakthrough. And then you go through the same cycle. But those who are able to
those cycles too, then you just give up.
Then you just quit.
I guess I'm not an entrepreneur. I guess I just suck at business.
The point is when you get into that place of crisis of meaning, when you're able to push through that and learn from the mistakes that you've made up until that point and learn from those and continue to just be diligent and patient and continue just doing it. I'm not talking about pounding your head against the wall. I'm talking about continue to figure out what's it going to take to make this thing work. Then eventually you come to a point of informed optimism. You know how hard it was, but now you're starting to be able to see, okay, there's breakthrough on the way. And then on the other side of that is success and achievement. And that touches any area of life, but especially touches business. Failure is quitting, right? And so quitting does mean game over. Like you quit, which would like you're playing a football game, you walk off the field because you're mad, you quit, game over for you. But failure is not. Quitting is the only failure. Everything else is the opportunity to push through another challenge, to develop more grit, more determination, to learn more lessons, to learn how to do things better, to learn where you don't have strengths, to become more self-aware. All of it is an opportunity for you to get better. And as you get better, your likelihood of positive outcome and success continues to get greater.
Yeah, I think failure is they say you learn more from failure than you do from success.
Oh yeah,
because
that's true for me.
It forces you to look, and I'm just thinking of this real estate deal I got into with a partner, and it was one of the only partnerships I've ever been in that kind of went bad, and I got stuck for 2 years in this deal. And it was a lot of my time, and it was a lot of and this was like really early when it was like, it just sucked because I was like, it was the only thing I was doing. And I was just like, really, I had the mortgage in my name and everything. I didn't want to get any more mortgages because I didn't want to mess up that guy's refinance. And it was like just some dynamics, and he was going through like a divorce and everything. And I found out his wife didn't even know he was partnering with me, and it was in a different country and just all this weird stuff. But it was like a failure, I guess you could call it that way, when I finally got out of the deal. And so I was like, at home, I was like beating myself up. I felt I was like hard on myself, thinking like, oh, I've wasted like 2 years. But then I was like, I had this moment. I was taking a shower, literally thinking in my mind, and I was like, if you're a medical doctor, like you're not going, oh man, I wasted all that time in med school, getting my degree like 10 years down the drain. No, you're a doctor.
Yeah.
That's your dream. That's what you wanted to do. Like those hours invested that were hard, that were the late nights and everything, what did they really produce? Yeah. If you drop out of med school, nothing. Yeah. But if you see that to the end and now you're in the field and creating everything that you wanted. And so like for me, it was like it was just a cool moment of reflection where I was like, this is just part of it. Yeah. Like I have to go through some rougher deals. I just have to. I'm going to have to go through some more challenging. I mean, we had an apartment complex that was the same thing, and we still have it, and we're working through it. And it's like one of those things where you're just working for free. Yeah. And it's like you learn though. Yeah. So in the game of entrepreneurship, the only way that it's game over is if you quit. Yeah. Not if you fail. Because failure
is the opportunity to learn and grow and get better.
Mm-hmm.
So then the last myth that I want us to bust wide open, Aaron, is this idea that perfection is key.
Okay.
Perfection is key. Listen, we got to forget all of the noise. And you and I, business partners, right? We work together on stuff. We've had some conversations where you and I both can be perfectionistic in different areas. Josh, the guy behind the camera at Own the Exit, the one leading the production, the one you never see. One of the conversations I've had with Josh is about perfectionism. And I am more inclined towards this idea that done is better than perfect. Because perfectionism, if you believe and buy into the myth of perfection is key, then you'll never actually finish anything. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. And done means you actually accomplish something. And even if it's not perfect, you can make it better next time. But what I'm not saying is we should not strive for excellence. We absolutely should strive for excellence. But when something is imperfect and it cripples us, then it cripples our growth because we're not actually producing stuff because we're afraid that what we're producing is not good enough. It's not perfect enough. And so the myth of entrepreneurship that holds entrepreneurs back is sometimes you just need to release the product. Stop trying to tweak it. Stop trying to make it better. You just need to publish the website. Yeah, there may be one or two copy errors on there. Yeah, there may be one or two things that are not optimal, but you just need to publish it. Done is better than perfect. You can tweak it, optimize it, make it better later, but get a project done. Get something done so that you can actually, one, feel that sense of accomplishment, that you actually saw something through to the end, that it was actually, you could say it's done, right? And so that you can move on to other things that maybe will have more of the impact to break you through in your business. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know you and I got, when we were working on some of the branding stuff, right? I want to share a little bit about that, about how we got hung up on that and how.
Yeah. And that's what's funny is I didn't even feel like we were hung up because I'm so, for me, it has to be like
Perfect
whenever it comes to brands. But I think we're just trying to get our logo and everything figured out because I'm trying to think, hey, 10 years from now, I don't want to change this. Well, maybe that's too far, but 3 years.
Yeah.
I want it to make sense and I want to be proud of it.
Yeah.
So I think there's some things within the company that would, in any company, that you want to be more perfect and other things that are less, there's a kind of a scale. But I'm just thinking the thought I was having as you were sharing that was like having that perfection kind of spirit or whatever in like your company is not good because then everyone's like afraid of like failure, right? Like we were talking earlier where it's, because I'm just thinking I want to empower people to try stuff and it's not going to all work. Yeah. And that's actually, it's normal. Hey, let's try this new project management software, like the stuff we were using before with the one we're using now. That was like a flop. Like we tried it, we couldn't get everybody on. We spent a bunch of money and it was just like, we abandoned it. Yeah. And so it was like, but I wasn't mad at anybody. It's, hey, that was the best thing that we could come up with at the time. And that's just one example of 20, right? But if people have what you're saying of that mindset of no one's going to be mad at you for failing or being not perfect. Yeah. I think I value innovation and coming up with new ideas and trying more than it's all going to, because it's just not, right? It's a journey of like exploratory. When you're in business, right? You're always like, it's like the research and development. Companies will pay like millions of dollars, like tens of millions just for something. They'll get a whole team on that thing. And then they'd be like, nah, we discovered we don't want to do that. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like part of business. And then you could call that failure. You could call it lack of perfection but I think like just having that culture of, hey, it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to be refining always. And even if we think it's perfect, it's actually not. Yeah. Because in 2 years, you look back and you go, oh, I thought that was like really good. I've noticed a bunch of holes in that thing, or I could do a lot better now. Yeah. So you always have to be like, instead of perfection, I like the mindset of growing. Yeah. I like that because something that you just said stood out to me as we wrap up the episode here, that even if you do something like, let's say it's a specific project in your business, a campaign of some sort, a marketing campaign, and you're like, oh, you look at it and you're like, this is perfect. This is perfect. In a year, you're going to see, actually, it wasn't perfect. So you're going to find holes. You're going to see things that were wrong after the fact, even then if before. And so that, I think, is the point of like perfection can't be key because you're always going to be able to look back on something and see how you could do it better. And if you can get more of the ability to see that now,
and look for just how is this better than before? That's the better question, is how can we make this perfect? It's the better question is how can we make this better than before? How can we grow? How can we improve? And so, yeah.
Because you never arrive, right? Like, I'm just trying to think of the top brands and companies in this world, like they're growing.
They're growing, they're changing, they're
and that's
morphing.
why they don't become stagnant, right?
Exactly.
They're continuing to innovate. They're continuing to judge themselves.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, our last product could be better.
Yeah. Because growth is a sign of life. And if you're not growing, you're dying. Right. And so it's true. It's a biological fact. Anyway, hey, hope this episode is helpful for you guys as you're navigating your entrepreneurial journey, whether you're brand new to the entrepreneurial space, you're just now getting in touch with podcasts like Own the Exit, or you've been around for a long time, you've built many successful businesses. We all know that a growth mindset is of utmost importance if we're going to continue to level up and become better versions of ourselves and continue to create and build and solve problems in the world, which is what we as entrepreneurs do best. So if you want to continue this journey with us and On the Exit and you haven't yet, why don't you check us out on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us some comments. We love engaging with our audience. And that's all we've got for now. Thanks for joining us for Own the Exit.
Thanks, guys.
We'll see you next time.